Welcome back, friends, and happy Wednesday. My name is Emma G, and I looked off into the distance because I had a brief pinging of this is the last episode of this series of Real Talk with Emma G and Ra. And so I'm a little bit sad. Ra. But welcome back. You're here. You made it. You're here at the finale. Ra!
I'm
the crowd
here.
goes wild. It's been a journey of 16 weeks.
I know. And I feel sad as well. I feel sad and bittersweet, but I'm also excited for what we've been kind of collaborating, dreaming up for the next season.
Yeah. And it's I mean, this whole thing came kind of out of a alignment of sorts as you and I reconnected with your your business as a empowerment and leadership coach and authenticity coach. Authenticity is totally your bag, and obviously my work as an empowerment and coach for young people, specifically when it comes to exercising our voice, especially obviously the lead up of my new book, which is now out. Yay!
Two-time best-selling author as well, everyone.
Listen, thank you. But I'm super excited because the whole purpose of both our work, I think, as an authenticity coach and as an empowerment coach, is about bringing to life the stories of those that sometimes can get kind of overshadowed a little bit, right? We have a tendency, I think, as a society to paint a lot of folk with the same paintbrush and make a lot of generalizations, especially when it comes to the business world, the entrepreneurial world, the leadership world. And I'm really excited about today's conversation because I think it's really easy to misconstrue the type of business person that we might be interviewing today. So before we introduce her properly, do you have any tidbits, any wisdom, any insights that you want to share before we go live with our special guest today for our last episode?
I feel put on the spot.
That's all. Come on, babes. Come on.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I just think in terms of words of wisdom, like really soak in what it is that you get out of today's episode. And if you haven't listened to all the other episodes, go back, find someone's story that you connect with and learn what you can. And I think that that's something that you just shared prior is like, you don't know someone's full story. You don't understand like how they got to where they are today, the obstacles that they've had to overcome, alongside, all these successes that you also see. And I think that that's one of the most incredible things that, we get to share with the world through interviewing such incredible people is that, you can be successful and you can still be in the midst of trial and tribulation and healing, and you can be successful and have also overcome all of these things, and that success doesn't necessarily mean that you've got everything figured out, because I don't believe that everyone has everything figured out in their life. We're all human after all, and I think that's the thing that I really love that we highlight in this space is like the humanity amongst it all.
I love that. I'll never forget when I was teaching at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, a terrestrial institute back in Aotearoa, our home country of New Zealand. I was also taking a couple of papers in Te Reo Māori specifically to learn more about, the why behind the Pacifica approach to learning and how it's different to most Western pedagogies. And one of my students, one of my music students, was asking me like, why are you doing a paper? Like, why are you doing anything? Like, why are you studying? And I kind of laughed and I was like, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. Growing and learning is an evolutionary experience. We should always be pushing the envelope and challenging ourselves to do more, to live more, to grow more, to achieve more where appropriate without too much ego, So I honor what you're saying right now, Ra. And today's guest is obviously a testament to this. And I know this because she is a boss woman of her own right. She manages and operates, 12 McDonald's restaurants across the DC, Maryland, and Virginia states and areas. And not only that, but she also has a thriving e-commerce business importing Polish pottery from Poland, obviously. I don't even know the name of the city because my pronunciation is terrible. But hello, the woman, the myth, the legend, Kari Swenson. How's it going, my love? Oh, you're on mute, I think. Oh, there we go. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to see both of you.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting to have you here. And I've known you for about a year now. You are a student of my husband's Krav Maga self-defense school. And I've kind of heard bits and pieces of gems of wisdom over the last, 12 months from you about what it means to be a woman in such a thriving and successful business, but managing many hats, right? So before we kind of dive into what it is that you actually do and why you do it and how you do it, and obviously manage your mental health at the same time, is there if you were to be stuck in an elevator with somebody for 15 seconds, what would you tell them you do? Who is Kari Swenson?
Well, good question. I think there's a lot of things that I do, but my elevator pitch, which I love that, is I've always been in the retail and restaurant industry. So my whole career, I started in fashion and I owned a retail boutique called Tom Girl, which was in the 90s, and it was a lot of fun. We had snowboarding and cool streetwear and art gallery. It was very hip and cool. And we went to trade shows, and the surf skate snow industry was
love that
super hot then. I lived in a small ski town in Colorado, and so it was the perfect mix. And we sponsored female riders. So we were all about women who snowboard and like to do sports, kind of like a tomboy, but a tom girl, so she's very girly. She's girly, but she's cool and rough, and she's out there, kicking butt. And so that was my first business. I was so young and I had no idea what I didn't know. I just sort of did it. And it was a really great experience. I learned a lot about branding and also the importance of pricing and all the little details around running a business. I studied business, went to graduate school for business. So I had all the financial and accounting and marketing fundamentals. But after that, I went and I worked at another retailer, but a huge multinational retailer owned by Louis Vuitton. And so it was these luxury products, and I was a buyer, and I traveled all over, which was really exciting to Singapore and Hong Kong and Japan. I went to a fashion show in Milan for Armani. It was very, very glamorous life. And it was fun. That lasted 5 years. And then the travel, as kids came into the picture, it was basically like the higher up you go, the more you travel, up to 80% of your time.
Wow.
So that was really not going to, be sustainable. So, then I took a little detour, and then my husband and we opened up a very quaint, very crunchy, we moved to Colorado, cafe that catered to the young family. We had like sustainable products and organic milk, and we had cute guitarists come and play music for the kids. It was all very sweet. Until it wasn't, and we closed it after a year. Really hard to make money. Restaurants can be a tough business. This was back in 2008, so the recession, the Great Recession happened, and like that. We caught it quickly, so we didn't actually go bankrupt or anything. But it's that led us to our current world. We were sort of like, what are we gonna do now? And so my husband's mom was one of the first female owner operators of McDonald's in the DC area. She's an amazing woman. And she's like, hey, why don't you come try it out? And I was like, I'm fashion. I'm snowboarding. I'm cool. I don't know. But I was like, well, we're here. We got 2 kids. We got to do something that's kind of safe. But I'd worked the corporate world before, and I knew I was more of like a self-employed type of person. So I really wanted to create my own destiny. And if I was efficient and quick and good at getting things done, I was rewarded as opposed to like 40 hours in the office,
I hear you.
So we said what the heck?
Yeah.
And came out to Washington, D.C. and started at the bottom. I put my uniform on with my big McDonald's and my name tag, Kari. Showed up with my hat, first day of work. How can I help you? That'll be $5.48. And just started taking orders. And McDonald's, the process become an owner isn't just a show up and here you are.
Right.
They have to approve you. It takes 3 to 4 years, and you work your way up. And that's what I did, and worked my way up, and you take all these tests. And then finally they say, well, okay, we think you got the chops to do this, but you still have to do a little more. And then eventually they approve you. And then you can start to buy stores. And so here I am 8 years later with 12 stores. And so it's been a really great experience. So anyway, elevator pitch, very long elevator, maybe 1,000 floors.
We're in a slow elevator in New York.
Yeah, lots of stops, like a kid in the elevator pressing all the buttons. So I basically I own businesses. So, and all retail and restaurant. So yeah. And then the pottery business, about 3.5 years ago, I've always been interested in e-commerce, and I have a huge passion for retail. And I was always, again, interested in buying businesses because I saw the success of buying an established business. So I started 2 businesses, the retail store, Tom Girl, and the restaurant, which was called Playgrounds, and I knew what it was like to build something from scratch. And it's hard. It's hard it's fun and it's great, but actually getting enough money to come in the door is hard. So I was really interested in buying businesses and successfully bought the McDonald's. You go and you get a loan from the bank, and you have to finance it. And so I thought, well, I can replicate this and do something else. And I had a partner in Colorado who runs the day-to-day. It's a business based in Colorado. And we approached the seller. He was a businessman retiring after doing it for 25 years. And we struck a deal. We got a loan and started importing huge containers of pottery from Bolesławiec, Poland.
Thank you for the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
That's intense.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to ask you.
Yep.
What do I want to ask you? You've got so much experience running and owning multiple businesses, which has clearly kind of led you to where you are today now, running multiple businesses. What's been one of the greatest lessons you've learned during that time frame, and how does that guide your decision making?
Well, really good question. I think, one, I kind of touched on it. Buying a business is a really great opportunity in this country. There's tons of businesses for sale. Buying something that's already established and having, immediate cash flow to start to pay down the debt and to pay your bills. That's definitely the larger opportunity. But overall, these businesses are people businesses. You can know how to run a spreadsheet, do the financials, set up a Facebook marketing campaign, place an order, all these things. But if you can't get your people to work for you without quitting, you losing your people, it's really, really important to figure out how that magic sauce, I'll call it, of, being strict and bossy, shall I say, and also having a heart. I call it empathy, having an empathetic heart and understanding what people are going through. And there's rules, but there's exceptions. And so really leaning into how to keep your people, and also how, as I grow up, if I ever do grow up, as I get more mature.
Sorry, I'm a game recognized game. I see you.
I was like, I get
it. How to also bring them with me. How do you, as I feel success and achieve my dreams and everything, like I call it shooting for the stars, and then looking back and bringing my people with me, and that, I think, is really that the key to success in jobs for people is for people to, yes, they want the paycheck, of course, they want the benefits, but at the end of the day, many people want to be recognized and seen, and have the opportunity to grow up themselves, And so I think focusing on that, hiring from within, not pulling out experts from the outside. I have never hired somebody for a senior level position that just walked in off the street. It's always been people that have moved up in the organization. So I think that that's really the key. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do so much. 450, 80 employees, depending on the month, gives me lots of people to help, because they're big businesses with big numbers and lots of things to do. So that's something I've learned, that being in business, again, is really a people business. Everyone says that, but it's recognizing people's strengths, and I don't call them weaknesses, I call them opportunities.
Love that.
Yes. So people's opportunities, and sometimes people have opportunities and they're actually just fundamentally who they are, and it's not going to change. And you have to balance, like, is this something I can live with, or is this not the right fit for the job? Because I do love my people, but I have fired plenty of people. I'm not like, it's not, I let people kind of hang on when it's not a good fit. And when I do have to fire, of course, it's very, very hard. I have a whole thing about it. I know exactly what to do. But what I focus on is, typically it's somebody that doesn't have a heart, doesn't have much empathy. They have the bossiness, which is great, but they don't have that missing empathy. And so when I do have to lay someone off, it's usually like I'm sort of like helping all the other people around them. You know what I mean? So that's how I kind of look at it. So
and it's also about, like, you can't make room for new exciting opportunities or people, or team members, or growth within a business if you're holding on to dead weight, right? I love that you bring up that whole concept of there's no such thing as a weakness, it's an opportunity for growth. I mentioned this to Ra a couple of episodes ago when we were interviewing Eli Lev. Back in 2020, I wrote an album called Born in Crisis, because the word crisis in Mandarin was represented by both danger, a symbol that represents danger, but also a symbol that represents opportunity. And I love that there are business language, there are business people, business language that can kind of incorporate that into how we operate businesses. I also really love how much you seem so intent rather, on this idea of people first leadership and people first, structure, right? Obviously, as in my role as a musician, I'm there to entertain, I'm there to empower the people. I'm not there for my ego. As I help, my husband with the self-defense school, it's the same thing. We're there to create warriors, right? That's the whole part of the CDK language. And obviously, as a coach myself, I'm there to serve. Ra is here to serve. I'm curious, from your experience as somebody who's come from the bottom rung and moved your way to the ladder is like a distance, a distant memory for you in many ways. How has that mindset of looking at opportunities for growth over failure helped you maintain that momentum and stay so aligned with that people first philosophy?
Good question. So, one thing I think is one of my, I think you called it secret powers. And
Superpowers, baby. You have a cape.
Yes,
You're super.
super,
Yes.
super, and not secret.
Not
Superpowers
secret.
is to look at big picture and not to get it too bogged down on the details, because in all businesses, every day mistakes are made. I mean, I guess all careers, all life, but in restaurants, there are a lot of mistakes. Tons, because we have a system at McDonald's and we follow the system, and so we've eliminated a lot of potentially mistakes through running through the system, but they do happen. So trying to focus on, like, okay, what is the big picture? Really, what are we trying to achieve? And is that an important aspect, or is it sort of an unimportant part of the day and it's going to pass and I won't even think about it in a year? So I think really trying to make sure that I spend my time on the big, bold, important opportunities, and again, not get bogged down, because something's coming at me every day, some problem. And I could, dig a hole and like try to fix that one little problem, or just sort of like let it flow through me and spend the appropriate amount of time on that, and not let it overtake my mind and bring me down. So you mentioned that the Krav Maga, which I am a student of DJs, which, yay, I love it. I started about a year and a half ago, and it's definitely helped me a lot. And I love this quote that's on the wall: "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." And it's helped me so much, really, to, like, when I leave the training, it's so hard. Like, it's the hardest thing I'm going to do all year. And if I can get through that and I keep going and going and going, everything else kind of feels easier. And that's one thing I really like about that, because it's so hard.
Yeah.
You say self-defense, but it's like, there's sparring and it's a lot of detail and repetition. And it's just, I love it so much, because it also teaches me what things you can control and things you can't control. So that's really important in my business.
I really love how you brought that up, because that was going to be part of my question, but you've kind of already answered it. And the reason why I love it is because I'm a CrossFit coach and have been a CrossFit coach for many years. And so, the learnings and the lessons that you get from Krav Maga, things that I myself have gotten through my own training, but also like that I pass on to my students, and it is something that you can transfer and apply to other areas of your life, especially in business and especially when it comes to leadership, because you're in the trenches sometimes and you're like, how am I going to get through this? But you do, and then you also learn so much more about yourself in that process. So I love that you said that. I suppose my question kind of from there, outside of that, do you have like a support network, or like who do you go to when perhaps you need help when it comes to, like, say, for example, like if you are getting kind of stuck in the details, or I like to use the word kind of like getting stuck in the mud or stuck in the weeds, to kind of help you pull yourself out and look at the bigger picture, if that's something that you kind of have and need at times?
Yeah, I do. I have, my family and friends. I have a really large family spread out across the country, mostly in California. And so a huge family. And so they're really great support for me. I do see a therapist, and she helps me with like cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mm.
When I get stuck
Yeah.
kind of in a pattern of, I call it negative thought, like someone's, how you feeling today? And I'm having a bad day, let's just say. And I call it, I'm feeling negative, because I'm generally a positive person. So I think that describes it perfectly.
Mm.
And she helps me with some really great strategies, especially focus on things that I can control versus things I can't control. You
Mm.
can't control how other people feel about me. Everybody likes me, believe it or not. I
Hard
can't
to believe.
control
Hard
that.
to believe.
Yeah.
And so I can't control that. I can just control how I feel about it. And trying to get out of you know, negative thinking, ruminating about something. So she helps a lot with those kind of like, not just like digging up old things from the past, but it's more clear, strategic goals of what I can do right now. So I really think that's some interesting theories in that type of therapy. And I have friends that I talk to who, again, kind of outside looking in is really helpful. And they're like,
Mm.
doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Why are you? Or like, oh, I really understand how you're feeling so down. And so
Mm.
getting that validation of your feelings, I think, is really helpful too.
Mm.
I love that you see a therapist and are super unapologetic about that. I think that's wonderful. And I love that she talks you through some CBT techniques. One of
Mhm.
the things I often do specifically with my teen clients, because they're still learning about life and whatever, but I also do this with adult clients when I'm now doing empowerment through songwriting coaching, is an exercise of almost kind of CBT based, but it's almost cognitive reframe, right? Like, but looking at it like, okay, so if you're feeling negative, if that's the feeling that you are bringing into your soul at the moment, what would you say to negativity if you were having a conversation with them? And kind of like looking at it like that. So I
Mm.
love that you're bringing that up, because I think that it's so beautiful and powerful for us to recognize that therapy is not something that is taboo, but also B, that it's something that so many people could benefit from, coaching wise, therapy wise, in terms of the long term benefits of running a business, because there's so much that happens in your day to day. People often talk about, it's just a day in the life of. I'm like, baby, do you know how much can happen in one day? Like, seriously, it's everything could change, everything, do a complete 180 in just 24 hours, right? So I'm saying that all to ask. Um, you've mentioned the word control a few times in the short conversation we've had. Are there any sort of hacks that you have, or tools that you use to help you really in the moment give yourself permission to take your hands off the steering wheel and kind of just trust that things are going to work out?
Yeah, I mean, I learned some like really basic tools, and this is going to almost sound childlike, but sometimes if I'm going through a time where everything's coming at once, I don't know what I should focus on. I can take a piece of paper and I make a circle and put everything I can control inside the circle and
Mm.
everything that I can't control outside of the circle. And I'll fold it up in a little piece of paper and I'll put it in my pocket and I kind of tap it all day. You know what I mean? To remind myself that that a lot of these things I can't control. I mean, most of the stuff's outside of the circle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the end of the day. And so if I just kind of become laser focused, like the bullseyes inside the circle, just focus on those, I usually start to feel a little bit better. And inevitably, the things that are outside of the circle just sort of disappear.
Mm.
Like I read, maybe you would know the book, but if it's something that you'll remember in a year, it's probably fairly important. But a lot of these details that happened every day are just in a year, they're not going to even be in my mind, And so I think that circle of influence or circle of control is a little tool that helps me. Again, basic, but very effective.
This is why women need pockets, is what I'm hearing.
I just love, I think, a lot of people overlook simple tools. Like, they're simple and they're effective, right? And I think a lot of people think that when it comes to taking care of your mental well-being, it needs to be this complex, like, morning routine where you're up at 5 a.m. and you're going to tick off all these things. And sometimes it can be as simple as, yeah, exactly. It's like, well, how are you meant to live your life, right? Especially when you own and operate 12 McDonald's businesses.
Right.
Like,
you can operate off of 4 hours sleep. Come on now.
And so it's like, okay, like what are simple, practical, effective tools? And I really love that you shared that, because I think that that's something that so many people can take away and implement in their life. And it's simple. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And of course, we could talk about this for a lot longer, but alas, our time is up. Ra, the 16th episode of Real Talk with Emma Jean Ra has come to a close. And Kari, I'm so glad that you're here for this. This is the season finale. I'm really, really grateful for your insights, for your tidbits, your feedback, your story. I think that, there's so much. I think we have this tendency to look at these ultra successful people and think they were born into it, or they were given the silver spoon, and to just know that obviously we all come from some type of privilege. I like to see my adversity as my privilege. But, I think that it's really wonderful to see people just in our everyday community thrive and succeed and kick butt in life. And I just think that you're an absolute wahine toa, as we say in Maori and New Zealand. It's female warrior, I think, both on the mat at Krav Maga CDK, but also in real life, you know what I mean? So before we bounce, is there anything that you would like to say as a quick sort of word of wisdom for all of our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, well, again, thanks so much for having me. And I really appreciate all of your messages that you guys both have. And I love that. Female warrior, that is definitely something. I have a drawing that I like to draw. And one of my favorite drawings I have as a female warrior, and it talks about, only focusing on the things that we can control and then slaying it. So.
Love that. Hands down. Ra, any words of wisdom before we close out today's final episode?
I wouldn't say words of wisdom, but thank you so much, Kari, for coming on and sharing everything that you did. I really appreciate your vulnerability and just sharing what's real, because I think that that's what's needed, is like people being able to kind of see a bit more kind of behind the curtain than what you see on the outside. So thank you so much for sharing in the way that you did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just talk what Rabani was saying is, just thank you for your story, for your insights, and your magic. You're doing so much to empower your employees, your customers, your community. I just think that's fantastic. To everybody else who's listening, you can get in touch with Kari. Remind us what your website is, Kari.
Well, you can look me up on social media. And my pottery business is called Polish Pottery Outlet. So you can check out the great wares. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I will put all those details about how to get hold of Kari in the show notes. And until next week, friends. Well, not next week, until next season. Good Lord. Until next season, I just want to say a massive, massive thank you again for being such a supporter of my new book, Mental Health Sounds Like This. It is available now. It did hit #1 in the new release category for both songwriting and for emotional mental health. And I'm super grateful for everybody. And, I look forward to having more conversations with Ra and whoever else decides to bless us with their presence, just as Kari Swenson has done today. And our next season, watch this space for updates, and we will see you very soon. Until then, be good, be kind. And spread love like it's going out of fashion.
I love it.
I have an echo. Yeah. See you guys, friends. Bye.
Bye, everyone.